Hello and welcome to Borrow My Belief, a podcast that's inspired to get you living from your heart. And I showcase guests that I know live from their heart. And this particular guest I have known, well, I met her in 2021 and we spent some beautiful time together. We've sat in circle together, and without a shadow of a doubt, does she live from her heart? And I can't wait to have this conversation, find out where she's at these days, what she's doing. And I know this is going to be a really interesting conversation. So, welcome, Kayla. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. My God, what a circle we've made. I love this. Thank you so much for asking me, Joanne, to be on this. It's honestly, it's truly an honor. And just to see you today, it's such a beautiful blessing and gift. So thank you from my heart to yours. Mm.
Same here, because we haven't connected since 2021, really. And so it's beautiful, even just to see your energy.
Mm.
Last time I
I know,
saw
I
you,
feel like social media kind of allows us to see like where everybody's
yeah.
going and like, you still get to see where people are, but I also believe that, when you meet people, like like you said earlier, like we were talking and before this, that people can weave in and out of your life and like we've definitely weaved a part of webs together.
Uh, maybe we've
Yeah.
been, maybe we've had well, I would imagine we've had other lifetimes together.
Yeah, well, we said that before, so I definitely believe it. Yeah.
We connected quite quickly, didn't we?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure, and I love that.
Uh,
So,
so when I met you in Mexico, I actually can't remember how I met you. Did we actually meet in that plant medicine environment? Is that the first time we met? Or
mm,
before?
um, I don't think so. I think we met prior to that, and probably through Janine, maybe, I think,
At her sound,
or Judy,
mm,
mm,
maybe
maybe.
through her sound baths.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's so hard to remember where you connect with people because like there's so many beautiful things that are happening, especially when you put yourself in that energy, So, yeah.
And that's how I know it's going to be a great chat. Just to give you a little bit of context, I was in that environment. I now live in Glastonbury in England, which is very, very spiritual town and very different to the rest of England. And anything goes here. There's so many energies, so many diversity. And I came from this environment to Mexico, which is different again. And I remember leaving this environment and saying to my daughter, I don't want to hang around in spiritual people for a while. I'm just getting away from it. And she said, Mum, you're going to meet spiritual people wherever you go because that's your energy. And I found myself in that party town in Mexico, not partying at all and meeting the whole spiritual community like you. Um, and then after that, I ended up back in the corporate world, nowhere near anything like that for about 18 months, and then back again into Glastonbury. So it'd be really nice to hear where you're at, what you've been doing during that time, and what's unfolded for you.
Yeah, so when I met you, I was deep into healing some parts of me that I didn't know needed to be healed and that I was so disconnected with. And since I've met you, since our last connection, I've just been really diving deep into healing those parts and, walking through that darkness. And I found this beautiful light that was inside of me that was just crying to get out. And I was not aware that it was crying to get out. So I'm currently still in Mexico. Right now, I'm actually in Playa del Carmen, but I just spent the last 3 months living in the jungle in Shbuja.
Mm.
Um, I'm actually moving back there really soon. I'm just getting my bedroom built so I can move out there. I met this amazing woman, and she owns a retreat villa out in the middle of Shbuja jungle. So I've been helping her create this beautiful ambience to bring people in to host their retreats, and I've been hosting retreats there. So I'm now able to hold space for other people that are looking to find the love and the light within themselves. So I work with women's womb space, connecting their heart and their womb. And I really feel that this is my calling, and it just feels so beautiful to watch people just blossom. Like it's such a beautiful blessing.
Wow, I've got chills.
Mm.
We're gonna go a bit woo-woo on this podcast. I know we are. I've got chills when you're talking, and I'm kind of a little bit in awe of the mirror we are for one another, in that we've both been hairdressers.
Mhm.
And I am living in somebody else's space, helping them bring it to a retreat space and hold space for people. So we're here on the other side of the world. Oh,
Wow.
and we're doing very, very similar things.
Still connected. Still connected.
That's what it's like. So tell me, I've been working with
Yeah.
recently, and I was telling you that I held a workshop this weekend, and it ended up all men turned up, and people keep saying to me that's really unusual where I live, but I think men are ready to come forward to these spaces.
Mhm.
You're particularly working with the woman in the womb, and I've been connecting with my womb, and I've been doing work on this on my own. So therefore, I'm really intrigued, thinking I've got to get to Mexico. I need to come and see this retreat, perhaps at the end of the year. So tell me a little bit about it. How you moved over to that journey, first of all, because when I last saw you, you were doing ice baths on the beach.
Yes.
You just started to take people for ice baths on the beach. So tell me a little bit what led you in that path and how you feel about it and why you feel called to it.
So, a little rewind. I actually ended up opening a hair salon down here. And that went really well. And then this training kept coming up about like a womb healing training for facilitators. And I was really called to it. And it's the second time it came up. So it came up in 2023, but it just wasn't a financial time for me to be able to do it. And I wasn't in a very good space. And then it came up again last year. And it's actually a year to today's date that I actually started the retreat. So it was a retreat training. And I wasn't really sure like what I was getting into. Like I know I signed up for the retreat. I promised myself and like every year I want to do a retreat. I want to keep pushing myself, keep learning, keep growing. And so this retreat came up. It was in full alignment for me. It was out in Siakan, which is like a magical vortex of its own. And I had several rebirths out in that jungle. And I kept hearing the voice like, you need to do the work because this is what you're meant to do. You need to go through this because you're meant to help others. I I died inside of there. But then I was reborn because I was reminded of what it was like to be in my mom's womb. And the women that were in with me, they were really loud and there was screaming and there was crying. And I was just like wanting to rip my hair out because I was like, this is like really traumatic for me. And then the fire told me that this was my womb space. So I need to walk through this again and I need to feel this so that I can leave on the other side as the person that I'm here to be. And as I was army crawling out in the sand, butt naked, the voice said to me, now you're ready.
Oh
And
wow.
I didn't understand what I was ready for. I just knew that like that was really intense and something inside of me changed right then and there. And then I we obviously learned how to work with women and work with the anchor points of the body so that we could help women release the traumas that are stored in our body. So our bodies are like a motherboard of a computer and it just stores all of our cells store all the traumas, all the pain, the grief, happiness and sadness, all the emotions. With this work, I've been working with it now over a year. I've had, I think it's like 21 or 22 women that have received from me to this date, and it's profound what I see happen on the table. And sometimes, like, we only get to 2 or 3 anchor points, but you can see the releases that people are having. And then also the things that come to me. So when I step into this space, it's almost as if I'm like a conduit. Like, it's not my hands that are healing you, it's all the energies that we're calling in. And we call in the gods, the goddesses, the ancestors, the elements, the guardians, the galactics, everything. And it's so amazing. And like, I literally can look at a woman's body, and by the time we're done, the body has transformed because it's relaxed, it's releasing. And it's just such a beautiful medicine to be able to help somebody heal just through their body. We obviously, there is like rituals that happen during the process. But and there's affirmations and there's like some communication, but it's really going in with the energetics and helping women to connect to their womb space, because our womb space is our creator, it's the creation, it's our passion, it's our love, it's our pleasure. Um, it's where we birth life, whether it's a baby or a business, it's still life, it's still birthing, right? So, and a lot of us women, we're very disconnected with our womb space because, our cycle makes us crazy or
Mm.
whatever people want to say. And I really don't like even repeating it because I mean, it's such a beautiful gift that we have to be able to release old tissues, to release old traumas, like to go out and bleed into our earth is so powerful. And like to give back to Pachamama, like, and I think that's the biggest lesson that like all of this is coming to me is that it's not what we it's not necessarily what we get, it's what we can like give back. And I don't mean give back to people, I mean give back to the earth, give back to the elements, give back to the spirits, because truly this is how we heal, is with acceptance, with surrender, and with the ability to like receive but then also to give.
Yeah.
So like Pachimama gives us so much, and if we don't give back, then there's still this unbalance. So I think it's really beautiful to receive, which has been something that I think I struggled with for years, is to be able to receive back love. But
Mm.
yeah, like, this work has changed my life and cracked open my heart. The guide, the illuminator of the path. It's really amazing. So yeah, I'm still here in Mexico, living this beautiful life.
I'm now understanding why we've connected at this time. Um, oh, we're freezing, but we're gonna keep going. I'll wait till she comes back because I know you're back. You're in
I'm
Mexico.
here.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna
Here, let me
perfect.
take off my Wi-Fi. Let's
We're
see if
gonna
it's better. I took off my Wi-Fi. Let's see if that works better.
we're gonna do this perfectly imperfect because that's my podcast. That's how it goes.
Yeah, that's it.
And
Yeah.
I have no doubt why we've connected just now because I've been working with feminine energies
Hmm.
and I'm noticing this part of me that's kind of, I mean, this is a conversation backwards and forwards, right? I'm noticing this part of me that's kind of, oh, spirit, are you really going to get me to go here on my podcast? And clearly, I'm being asked to do things that I've been resistant to. And that's,
Hmm.
you'll understand in a minute. My mum was schizophrenic. And so when I speak about things that have been happening with me recently, that whole wound comes up, which I've been working with. And clearly I'm ready to talk about it because I'm on here with you talking about these kind of things. So just give you a little bit of context with that. I'm seeing spirit more and more. I'm getting those voices. I'm being told where I'm going. I listened to a book called Pussy and read a book called Pussy, and it's all about talking to this area of your body that as women we are shamed about. All of a sudden, it's been a year that I've been working with this, and it's getting more and more intense, and I'm going more deeper into it. I'm working with codes and archetypes of Magdalene and Kuan Yin and all these things.
Oh,
And I
they're
have
so beautiful.
and I haven't announced that on my podcast yet. So it seems that this is where we're going, right? I've started to look at my body. I'm 56 in 2 weeks' time. I've never felt so good. I mean, my body's looked a lot better than it looks now. And yeah, I feel the best in this
Mm,
that I've ever felt. I've been single for 6 years, and all of a sudden, all these men are showing up and wanting to do things for me and saying, "What have you been doing, Joanne?" And I'm thinking, all that time that I wanted men around me, there's no one to be seen, and yet I've got this. It's weird. And the only thing I can think is it's because I've started to work. I mean, I'm not afraid of going deep. I'm not afraid of what we call shadows, but for people listening to this, depression,
mhm,
anxiety, I'm not afraid of looking at what we would call wounds, because
mhm,
that's unresolved energy that needs resolving. And all I can think is because I've been working with this as in the feminine rather than the masculine, um, that's why things are changing in my environment. And I know you're going to
mhm.
relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is, it shifts, it changes things. So like when we're in our masculine energy, we're doers
Yeah.
and nobody can do things for us because nope, I'm doing this. You don't need to do this for me. So that's our masculine energy. But inside of us, we have both the masculine and the feminine. And when we can bring them together in a union and create a partnership where you can be feminine and wear your pretty dresses and put on your little bit of makeup and do your hair and flow and float and love, it's really beautiful. But when you bring that little bit of masculine in where you have structure, it just creates such a beautiful balance. And the thing is that when we step into our feminine energy, we ignite the fire inside of us, which is our womb space. And you're igniting it. You're igniting your yoni. You're talking to your yoni. You're connecting to it. So, for anyone's not sure what the yoni is, I am talking about our pussy, our vagina, whichever word you want to use. I like the word yoni because it creates question.
But
um, and I think it's so amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been doing it on my own because I have sexual trauma in my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So and we're just going to go into this space because I think it's going to really help people who are listening. I used to take something called citalopram, which is an antidepressant. And I learned recently that there's so many people on this antidepressant, and I'm not anymore. And my journey coming off this antidepressant was just cutting down with it over a year. They say it's not addictive, but it took me a year because when I stopped taking it straight away, if I moved my head, it felt like I got electric currents going through my head.
Wow.
And then after that, I didn't tell my husband at the time because he would have been concerned. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that, I had 2 years of psychotherapy. So that was kind of and the psychotherapy was amazing. It taught me how to
Mm-hmm.
feel my emotions. And I wasn't feeling my emotions before that. But that was even though I had a woman psychotherapist, to me, that's still a masculine way of dealing with that kind of thing. And then I went on a whole journey from there. And it's the last year that I've started to dive more into the feminine. And anybody listening to this might have some of the same questions as me. My first one is, do I have to come and see you in person? Do I have to come to Mexico? Do I have to come to a retreat to like receive some of this healing from you as a facilitator?
So I do help women like learn how to do self massaging,
Mhm.
and how to connect with their space. Obviously, in person would be more powerful if you want to use that word, just because we can go a little bit deeper. But definitely, there's stuff that we can do online. Because the thing is that a lot of our issues is that we're not connected with that space. It's forbidden,
Mm.
and for centuries and generations, we didn't respect this space. We didn't respect our cycle. We didn't respect like how we used our bodies, you know. And a lot of women still to this day believe like, oh, haven't had sex with my husband in a week, so better have sex with him tonight, or with my partner, whether it's male or female. I don't want to make it like a only male and female thing, but we just get so disconnected and we forget that in order to receive pleasure, we need to give pleasure, but we need to also be able to give pleasure to ourselves. And we need to be able to look in the mirror and see how beautiful and sexy and like desirable we are. And if we don't see that in ourselves, how do we expect our partner to look at us and see us sexy, desirable, and able to be pleasured? So, a practice that I love sharing with my clients is you go in and you get this beautiful shower and you take your time and you wash your body really lovingly. You know, maybe you use some essential oils. And then when you get out of the shower, you look at yourself in the mirror as you're putting on your cream and you do it with intention, you know? So just like when you got a partner, you don't want a partner just to take you in bed and pull your pants down. You want to be loved, you want to be like serenaded, you want to feel like passion, but we need to feel that with ourselves first. So it's a really beautiful practice. Like when you get out of the bath or shower, whatever feels good. When you're putting on your lotion, like look at yourself in the mirror and put it on with love. You know, like rub your skin and like feel your own hands on your body, you know? Let your body know that it's safe to be touched. Because so many of us have sexual trauma that we don't even realize that we have, you know, like I think I'm gonna say like 8 years old, maybe 9 years old, and, I mean, the kids that did this to me, they never touched me, but, you know, they used to have me take my clothes off for them behind a tree, and I didn't know the difference. I was a young kid, you know, and this is something I only remembered a few years back, and I didn't realize how much that has affected me through, like, my teenage years, my adult years. Because it kinda made me feel unsafe around men and made me feel that, like, you know, there was, like, insecurities in there, and also it made me realize, like, how much stuff we can push down and forget about. So for me, I really needed to go back and, like, learn to love my body and respect it because, you know, at a really young age, I didn't respect my body and have no idea why or how I was able to be convinced to do that, you know? So learning to love my body and like really love my body and like look at my body and like, you know, learning to self pleasure. Like, I mean, I wasn't talked to about sex. I wasn't really talked to about my cycle either. So I'm certainly wasn't talked about, like, nobody talked to me about how to self pleasure myself. So, you know, now here I am, just turned 40 in February, and it's been the last year, probably about the last 2 years now that like I've been really learning and stepping into like self pleasure with myself. And like, that's just not all about like dildos and vibrators. That's about like my lotion that I use. Like, it needs to smell good. The clothes I wear, I want to feel good. The words I use, like, you know, the things that I do, these are all self pleasure. The food that I eat, like that's a pleasure. So, you know, sex is also a very beautiful pleasure, but we also have these like senses, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, like we have all these beautiful senses of hearing, of seeing, of tasting, of feeling that like they bring pleasure to us. You know, so when we really take time to step back and like look at ourselves and like, are you eating foods that taste good to you? Are you reading books that please you? Are you listening to music and podcasts or having conversations that bring pleasure to you? You know, we need to start at those places because if we just always put things back to like sex and pleasure, like like in that way, then we're still missing other things.
Yeah.
So, like, I think there's a, like, a really big disconnect going on with what pleasure is and, like, the different types of pleasure. Because I know for me, like, there's nothing more attractive to me than having somebody cook a delicious meal for me, come up behind me, slap my ass, or, you know, like, these are just, like these things really, like, make me feel so good or, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, sitting with somebody and having such a beautiful conversation, like, someone making eye contact with me in a conversation, like, to me, like, these are such beautiful connections, and you know, I think it all goes back to like how we feel about ourselves. So if we don't feel good about ourselves, how can we give pleasure? How can we receive pleasure? So,
I find this really interesting what you're saying. Well, first of all, I know it's cliche, but I actually really mean this. I can't believe you're 40. I had no idea what your age. She's gonna be 40. What the heck?
yeah, I turned 40 February past. Yeah.
Wow. Um,
Yeah.
I've written quite a few notes here, so there's a lot to.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first thing is I came across this woman who had this course called the S Factor about a year ago, and she taught you how to listen to your body. And
Mhm.
basically, this woman, she did a Netflix movie called Strip Down, Rise Up, and then I did a course, and I've started pole dancing. So
Nice.
and I'm loving it. And
Mhm.
she taught you to ask your body what it wanted to wear each day. And I found that I got answers. So my body started to tell me what it wanted to wear. And then I came off course a little bit. And then in recent times, life things happened. And then in recent times, I've just been wearing more and more things that make me feel really good. So that's the first thing. The second
Mhm.
is I've neglected my body so much. I've done triathlons, I've put my body through so much, and I haven't exercised like that in a long time, but now I'm starting to enjoy my own body. And like you said, putting lotion on. And again, it started about a year ago. I started to do this exercise in the mirror where would say you would say, first of all, you'd say 7 times what you were sorry to yourself for, then
Mhm.
7 things. Then you would say 7 things that you forgive yourself for, and then 7 things that you promised yourself for. And it was
Wow.
did it for 30 days. And when I first started doing it, it was like, oh God, look at these wrinkles here and my God, saggy eyes. That's what was going through my head. But by the time I'd finished this 30 days, I think it was about March last year. I was literally felt like I was looking at my own lover in the mirror, and you were advised to journal about it, which I didn't actually do, but I had so many tears and different things happen in that process. And then this year, I've moved on to looking at myself naked. And what I've come to understand is that as women, we are taught not to like our bodies. It doesn't, even when my body was perfect and I had a really great body when I was younger, I didn't like my body. I was so obsessed with my weight. I was skinny. I didn't like my body. And I've come to realize I'm nearly 56. And now I love my body and it's nowhere near as perfect dish like what I thought had to be perfect then. We are so taught to shame our own bodies as women. It's this shame thing. Do you agree?
Oh my God, yes, my goodness. And I mean, now we have social media, which really, you
Mm,
know, it causes a lot of judgment in ourselves. But yeah, we're not taught to love what we have for our bodies, like how beautiful our bodies are, and like every curve, every wrinkle, every freckle. Like I have freckles, so like as a kid, oh, like I remember this woman, she was married to a guy that so my dad played ball hockey, and this woman, her husband played ball hockey with my dad. And I didn't know she had freckles because she wore so much makeup. And I remember one day I seen her without makeup. I was like, "Oh, you have freckles like me." And she's like, "Oh, I hate them." And I was like, "Oh, I love having freckles."
mm,
But like I mean, I was probably 11 or 12 and I remember this conversation. But, like, I've never wore foundation. Anytime I've ever went and had, like, a photo shoot done, they put foundation on, and I'm like, "No, like, this is not who I am. Like, you're taking away my beauties." Like, I don't mind a bit of eye makeup, but as soon as she starts putting foundation on me, I'm like, "No, like, this is my skin." Like, I really and I felt like that for my whole life. Like, I've always loved my freckles. Like, if anything, I love when the sun hits them and they come out more. But then our whole bodies, like, how many times have you heard a woman say, like, "Oh, I feel fat in this today?"
yeah, yeah. It's and
And, like, it's so sad that we look at ourselves and, like, think that we're fat. Like, why can't we just be happy at where we are and say, like, "Oh, well, maybe I could work a little bit more on my body to feel better." Because
it's
as soon as we tell our body that we feel fat, we're giving it a negative impact, so then we will just go keep eating the food because, like, "Well, I'm already fat."
Yeah.
instead of being like, oh, hey, like I'm gonna get up in the morning and walk for a half hour.
It's a really good point. And I mean, not that it's got anything to do with how we feel as women, but I've been working a lot with men recently, and it's really
Hmm.
interesting. I'm getting closer and closer to men. I went on a mission last October to start to understand men better. And men don't have any hang-ups about women's bodies. They don't really care what a woman's body looks like. They 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 see us completely different to what we see ourselves, yet we think that they're looking at us and want this perfect body. They don't care.
No.
It's really funny ways. It's a bit of a joke when you realize that, because I think the way we're conditioned and we're taught, I think a lot of women want their bodies to be perfect to actually attract a partner or for the partner or whatever. And it's inconsequential, really. It's all about loving your own body and being
Hmm.
sensual in your own body at the end of the day. And there's nothing more I've come to realize. I mean, I'm single, but I've come to realize there's nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who feels sensual in her own body, no matter what her body is like.
Well, and that's why you're attracting all these men now.
Right, yeah.
Right? Because like once we put on this energy, like once we start feeling that like this is me, I'm my authentic self, well then we will start attracting things. So like not just men, like we'll attract jobs, friendships, uh, everything will just start getting more abundant because we love and we feel good inside. So if I feel like shit on the inside and I feel horrible and I'm negative, well, you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to get the cashier that doesn't want to be at her job. You're going to get the guy at the gas pump that doesn't want to move his car. Like you're going to just keep bumping into that same energy because that is what field you're in. But if
Yes.
you wake up and you're just like, today's going to be a great day and I feel good about myself and you're happy, well, you're going to walk out the road and bump into friends, or you're going to go to the fruiteria, and like, which is a fruit stand here in Mexico. And the little lady's going to be like, oh, here's some delicious fruit. Like, like everything's just going to feel like such a beautiful blessing and so much love because you feel the love inside. Like how we feel inside is really a reflection of what is going to happen on the outside. And I mean, that has been such a beautiful blessing. And I mean, for me, like cracking open my heart and feeling love was such a beautiful thing that I felt. And like that's really, really has changed so much for me. Like just,
Mm.
and I don't mean like being able to love someone else. I mean loving myself. Like looking in that mirror and being like, wow, you look really good today.
I
Like
The biggest thing I noticed about you compared to last time I saw you, when we came on well, first of all, just explain to anybody listening, I'd just gone out to get milk and I bumped into the whole village. I couldn't, so beautiful because I live in this village and I wanted community. It was really so beautiful that I went to get milk. I allowed myself an hour and I bumped into so many people that I was late to start our podcast, right? And I sent you a message and you said, that's so beautiful, right? And I'm thinking, she
Mm,
thinks that's great. And now I understand why, because you knew that I was in that energy. I got
mm.
hugs. I think I got 4 hugs while I was out. And I've come
Mm,
from I've come from an environment only 6 months ago where I was really quite isolated, and I needed to be isolated at that time. It was my journey, but something
mhm,
really beautiful for me. So that's what you're describing, because I'm in the energy, because I've started to love myself, because I've started to see myself. And
mhm,
what's really interesting for me is, I don't believe I'm going to say this, I've never been interested in I've never been a sexual person. I've got 2 children, but I've never been a sexual person. And here I am about to turn 56, and I feel more sexual than I've ever felt in my life. I mean, I'm single, I'm not doing anything, but I feel so sensual and so great. And I can walk around, you would call it a grocery store, we would call it the supermarket. I can walk around the supermarket now doing my shopping to get avocados and feel so much pleasure just
mhm.
through buying my shopping. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because you love your life and you love you, like, like I said, like what we eat, like those tastes, like that's pleasure. Like
Yeah.
you don't sit down and be like, oh my God, this taste is gross. And you
Yeah.
don't just keep eating, like you sit down and like recently on my retreat, we hired these amazing local chefs. And I literally, after the retreat, I was like, thank you. You literally made this retreat so much more because of the pleasure we all got from eating this food, how good we felt from eating this food. And like, it's so true. Like, we're not going to sit down and listen to music that we don't like. So like the more we allow ourselves to feel pleasure through taste, hearing, seeing, feeling, touch, like all these things, and then the more we love ourselves, like the more things will just keep expanding.
What I'm noticing for women, and it's the feminine energies, right?
Hmm.
What I'm noticing is the more I feel pleasure, the more I tap into joy, the more I do more of what I love every day, the more I be, the more abundant my life becomes. And yet,
Hmm.
I used to be in this energy of, I mean, I've been really wealthy in the masculine doing energy. And now I'm discovering the abundance of the being energy, which seems to be 20% doing and 80% being and having fun and joy, and more abundant than the energy I was in before. I don't, I actually, I find it hard to describe. So I'm wondering what you'd have to say on that. And I think it's personally, I'd love to hear your take. It's the receiving. I always had a problem receiving. And
Hmm.
I think there's something in the receiving and the being the feminine and the abundance. And I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
So I'm definitely a very feminine energy person, and I've just recently stepped into my masculine a little bit. But being able, because I think I was in masculine for a while, like just in that, like do, work, 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 because that's what success is,
Yeah.
quote unquote. Now I'm in this really beautiful feminine energy, but I have a boundary. Like I have boundaries made. So like there's just things that are not negotiable for me. But being in your feminine energy and be able to receive help, being able to say that like you need help is a really beautiful thing. And for
Mm.
me, I find that the more I surrender to being a beautiful woman and being someone that can show love but can receive love, the more abundant my life has gotten. I mean, I've really had a huge shift in my life, and like things are just happening like this now. Like it's super intense, but it's so beautiful. But like you just said, it's a lot of surrendering and just like, even though I'm doing a lot, I'm still spending a lot of time in meditation. I'm still spending a lot of time sitting on the beach or listening to music and just really being in surrender. And if someone invites me to come over for dinner, or if somebody asks me if I need help with something, I now say yes,
Mm.
rather than being like, no, I can do it myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But why? Why do we need to do everything ourselves? Who are we trying to prove a point to?
Yeah,
Like, like it's such a, if we're saying that we want to be able to receive love, but yet anytime someone tries to give it to us, we're like, nope, get away.
weird because as women, the first thing we all want to do is give. We're taught to give, 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 give until we're
Hmm.
treated as women, really, aren't we?
Until
Um,
we're like,
yeah,
we're resentful and
yeah,
like
but
just not good.
not taught to receive. Even
Hmm.
if I look back on my life, because I'm so far removed from the life I used to have now, but if I look back on my life, it was even hard to receive a compliment from somebody. You know what do
Hmm.
you do? Oh, you look nice in that dress. Oh, it just cost me. It was a cheap one that I got.
Yeah.
It was
It's like, oh,
always
you look so good. Oh my God, this is so old. Instead of just
yeah,
saying, thank you,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
2 words, thank you. That's all you need to learn to do.
That's the first thing to learn, isn't it, really? Because
Mm.
we find it so hard to even, you look so young, oh, but I'm getting wrinkles, or,
Yeah.
oh, and
Yeah.
You don't really hear men doing that though, do you? It
Mhm.
seems to be a womanly thing as well.
Yeah.
And also, I'm really interested to hear your story and the explanation between the heart and the womb. Because when we first came on the call before we started recording, I explained to you that a lot of the guests that I have, it's to showcase people living from the heart. And I knew you did. So you were absolutely a guest on this show, and I knew you'd be. I didn't know I'd be end up talking about this stuff because we've not connected recently, and it's just so perfect
Mhm.
journey. I thought we might talk about ice baths and hairdressing, but it's brilliant. It's perfect because it's an amazing subject. But I'm interested to hear what your connection with the heart and the womb is, because I hear a lot. I've got lots of men friends now, and I hear a lot about men living from the heart. And recently, through reading the books I've been reading, and the different, I mean, I'm reading a book just now called Why Men Love Bitches. The difference between men and women, and I hear a lot of men say, "What does your heart say?" In my journey over the last year, I've come to ask, "What does my womb say?" And I get a much more intelligent answer, and
Mhm.
I still live from my heart. So I'm
Mhm.
interested to hear what you've got to say about that.
So I feel that our heart is the bridge to our higher chakras and our lower chakras. So our root chakra, our sacral, and our solar plexus. Then we have our heart. And then we have our throat, our third eye, and our crown. So I believe, and this is kind of like how I'm like creating things, is that when we tap into our heart, we tap into our self-love and
Mm,
we learn to accept love,
mm,
then that opens our heart chakra. So when we open our heart chakra, then we can be creative, then we can be passionate, then we can feel grounded. Because if I don't feel loved, how can I feel grounded? If I don't feel love, how can I feel creative? Like how can I feel like, my painting that I'm doing is beautiful if I don't love me? I'm not going to look at that painting the same. And if I don't feel loved, how can I speak the things that I need to speak or see the things I need to see? So like love to me is how we heal within and then how we can help others heal. So like for me, like when I have women on my table, they're just like, that was so beautiful. And I was like, yes, I just poured unconditional love into you for 2 hours.
And
And
that's
s-
so when you've
and
got the
s-
table, your mat is that massage.
it's a massage, yeah. So I do a lot of body work with different anchor points of the body. But I'm also like, I'm literally loving the whole body, every inch of your body. So I might be touching your shoulder, but massaging your calf muscle at the same time, and then bringing my hands together and like just really serenading and like I almost like dance with the body. At my first retreat in January, I had some girlfriends come down from Canada and I asked them to get some content. And my girlfriend was just like, I asked her after, I was like, what were you watching? And she's like, you dance with the body. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I've never seen that. Like, I've never seen somebody like dance with the body. And like, when I go to move the arm to do the breast massage, like, I don't just take the arm and fling it back. Like, I take it and I move it ever so beautifully. So everything is done with intention. Everything is done with love because love is how we heal. Like think
Mm,
about our heart. Our heart is what keeps everything in our body going. If our
yeah.
heart gets sick, then everything else starts to get sick. So if our heart is blocked and locked and we got all these walls up around, how are we going to like call in abundance if our heart is just like this, and we're so protective? And
Wow.
even though there's things in our life that has caused us to do this, we can also start taking little pieces away each time to like allow in love, and we have to start with ourselves first. That's a non-negotiable, like we need to make that first step to be like, okay, Kayla, I want to receive love. I'm ready. I can't, if I come knocking on your door and be like, hey, I'm here to give you a womb massage, you're probably gonna be like closing the door on me,
I'm just wondering if you can come to Glastonbury so
I mean,
I can experience.
not an option. I just got asked to go to France a
Yeah,
week ago, so
Maybe you could do a tour of Europe and we could put on a retreat in Glastonbury.
I would love that.
Yeah, me too. Watch the
Yeah.
space, people. Um,
Yeah.
what's coming up for me, and I'm just talking from my own journey here. I mean, I learned massage when I learned how to be a hairdresser. I did hair and beauty therapy, and I've been looking for somebody who can do body work, but in a specific way that they could release emotion along with that. So
There is a woman in Kent and she does oh my God, what is the name of this? She does, I can't think of it, but she does a type of work that goes in and works with the like trigger points of the body, and she goes really deep into it.
love
Um,
being,
oh goodness, I can't think of the name of the body work. My brain is a little
but you can let me
busy.
know. Let me
Yeah,
know.
I can let you know, but she's,
We'll put it in the comments as well.
yeah, she's super amazing and she's in Kent. Yeah. But
Yeah.
there is modalities out there that like it helps us. It helps us like release the things in our body because talk therapy is great, but when we work with the body, that is really effective.
There's a guy in Bristol that's not far from where it is. It's a guy and he works like that as well. So
Hmm.
I'm guessing that if wherever anybody lives, if they look it up, they might be able to find somebody.
Hmm.
But I would more in kind of the spiritual communities, really.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking what you said about the heart there, the word that came up to me was safety. If we can learn to feel safe, and when I think about that, there's people you don't feel safe with, and the more I've found that the more I look after myself, the more I respect myself, the more I'm doing this. My boundaries are so much better than they were, and
Hmm.
I'm not feeling safe because my environment's changed. I'm feeling safe because I've changed, which in turn has changed my environment. Because there's things I will not do anymore that I would have done before, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
it's not so much about creating boundaries, which I'll hear a lot of people say. For me, it's been more about learning how to be with me, how to be in my own truth. The boundaries create themselves
Hmm.
because I'm loving this vessel that I'm in. I'm realizing it's amazing to live in here, and it's my number one priority above everything else because I'm going to be with this for the rest of my life. And it's my number one relationship that I'm always with, regardless of what.
No matter what state we're in, we got ourselves.
So
But I
to
love what you just said about boundaries because for me, like when I started to learn to love myself, the boundaries naturally created. So
yes,
like I no longer could go sit in a space where before I would just sit there because like, you know, this is what my friends do. And like I didn't realize how much energy I was letting slip for me just trying to stay in that space, or like and now like these boundaries have created themselves and like they're like non-negotiables for me.
and it's not because I used to years ago think, oh, what are these boundaries? Read about boundaries. How do I do these boundaries?
Mhm.
And then years later, I'm more, oh, this is how it works. It's not
Well,
about
because you got to know yourself. You got to know yourself and what you actually like. Because before we're told what we like, you
and
know?
like you've just said, those spaces. And I've been for a walk this morning with a friend of mine who I absolutely love, and she's just about to launch a program called Goodbye Good Girl.
Oh,
And it's going to be absolutely awesome because we are taught to be good girls. And I even taught my own daughter this. I remember as an unconscious parent at the time being so proud when people said to me, oh, your children behave really well in public. And I didn't actually understand at that time what I was doing to my children. Yes, of course, you don't want them unsafe and whatnot, but that was for me, not for my children. That was so I could say, oh, my children are really great and they sit and they're really nice and they keep their mouth shut and they do what they're told. And really, what did I teach my children? I mean, we've been on a great journey since then, but what did I teach my children? How to abandon themselves. So
right. Yeah. It's interesting how you can reflect back on that though.
I'm one of the lucky ones. I've
Yeah.
had really strong children with really strong opinions, and we've had
Mhm.
some really great conversations.
Well, our children's are our teachers. They
Yeah.
choose us, right? Like the children that we create and that come into our lives, like they chose to be your children, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, I mean, I'm really lucky because I have some really amazing conversations with my children.
It's good. I love that for you.
And I went through a phase where I regretted what I'd been like, but I'm past that now because we don't know
Mhm.
till we know. So we don't
Well,
know.
forgiveness, right? We need to forgive ourselves because
Absolutely.
if not, that will just create more resentment you know, and resentment is not how we learn how to love.
Yeah.
So it's forgiveness.
Mhm.
Yeah, forgiveness.
And something else I wrote down
Yeah.
was receiving part, and I wrote down scary. So let's what I mean by that, and I came to understand personally that there were times in my life where I wanted things, and it might be love from a man, it might be money in abundance, because I've been down to the, oh my gosh, I'm going to pay for something stage as well. And I mean, I'm really into self-development, and that's what I create. And I wrote a book about manifestation. So I'm really passionate about this stuff. So I've been fortunate to sit and journal and do all those types of things and go to spaces. And what I came to understand was sometimes as human beings, we don't realize we keep ourselves in circumstances that we think we don't want because it feels safer, and it's actually something unconscious in us is scared to get what we want, and we don't know we're doing that because the
Mhm,
receiving thing can be quite scary, whether it's money, whether it's your dream life, whether it's your dream partner. And people might be shocked to hear that, some people listening, but that's certainly what I've discovered.
mhm. Well, and as women, usually if we receive something, it means that we need to give something. So
Mm,
that's where the scared part comes in is that like, oh, well, this person's going to give me something, so I'm going to receive, but now what is it that they expect? What
mm,
is, so like there's always that and not everybody, but a lot of people that I've talked to, this is the scared part is that like, but if this person does this for me, what do they expect? Well,
mm. It's not
we
un-
have and we have to realize that sometimes people are just wanting to be there to give us something with no expectations, which
that
is
that I've never heard that before, Kayla. That's the
mm,
first time anyone's
mm,
said that to me.
mhm,
Wow.
mhm.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of it stems from because like and it might not have even been in our own lifetime. It could be something that's passed down or a story that was told, but it's the fact that like any most times, not all times, but in a lot of circumstances, when we get something, there's usually something that needs to be reciprocated, which is really makes us a little bit like resistant, fearful to receive it because not always do we have something that we can give back. Sometimes we're just like down to the last penny in our bank account or like don't have anyone else to call or whatever the circumstance and it's almost creates like a little bit of fear around receiving it because we don't necessarily have something to give back.
Wow. That is a really interesting take. I'm going to contemplate on that. I know for sure.
Mhm.
And that brings me to, I think the majority of people have never received unconditional love because
Mm,
all growing up, everything's conditional, isn't it? If you do that, you get that. If you do the way we've treat our children, everything comes with the condition, doesn't it?
mhm.
And that is, it ties in with that, I think.
Yeah, and I think our world is really awakening. I think there's a lot of stuff happening and people are finally starting to and I'm not talking about like the things that we see on the TV. I'm talking about inner stuff is happening. Like people are finally realizing that like hold on, wait a second. Like it's okay to feel loved or it's okay that I don't feel okay today. Like finally mental health is really like, a big topic whereas before like I know like I mean, I'm 40 years old. I'm not that old, but I remember as a kid having a job and just not feeling well. I mean, you couldn't call into work sick. Then fast forward in Canada when I had a hair salon, I mean, I had staff call me, been like, "Oh, I'm taking a mental health day today. I don't feel well," and you can't say anything about that, you know, like, and it's so nice to see that finally there is this
Mm,
availability that like we're finally realizing that mental health is something that is a dis-ease in our body, you
yes.
know, um, and it's finally come to light with it, which is good. I'm not saying that it's always used properly, but it's definitely really nice to see that, you know, we're finally understanding that like it's okay to be unwell, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, and it's okay to take that time to repair yourself.
Yeah.
So it's really, we're having this really big enlightening. You see more people talking about love. You see more people talking about God, about spirits, about, you know, like I mean, I might not have this wherever I go, but I can finally say to people like, yeah, I hear things,
Yeah.
you know?
I think it depends where you are. It's really interesting to me that so first of all, the first time I left a corporate job was in 2021 and when I came to Mexico. And actually, it wasn't when I came to Mexico. I went to Hawaii that time. And I'd been working in the dental industry for a good long time. I worked total, I think there 25 years or 30 years. And at that point, I was starting to look into holistic ways of being and understand, but I'd been studying manifestation for 33 years and it kind of takes you down that path. And at that point, all the dentists most wanted to know scientific backup, everything like that. And then we had COVID, and I think that people sat back a little bit at that point and started to see things differently. And I think it's a little bit like yoga. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that yoga was something that you did out in India or something. You didn't do it in the UK. Meditation's a buzzword now. So I left the dental industry and I think I was away 18 months. And then I went back into another job in that industry. And when I went back, I was having conversations that I would not have had previously, and people were
Hmm.
opening up more. But I only left that world again in September last year, and there still
Hmm.
is a very, I think I can be a little bit skewed because where I live now, it's a village. There's a lot of holistic therapies. It's very open-minded. Some people might think, gosh, this looks like walking into Universal Studios. It's a bit like Harry Potter set. It's very far the other way. So I still feel like there's still a very divide, and I feel like you can go far too far one way and too far the other way, and
Hmm.
somewhere in the middle would be really nice.
Yeah, it's that balance, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. It's finding that balance and, you
Yeah.
know, it's there's definitely a huge shift happening and it's really beautiful to witness, honestly. And it was necessary. And I, you know, the pandemic, I really feel allowed us to not have any distractions. Like we couldn't distract ourselves with work because a lot of us couldn't go to work. We couldn't distract ourselves with going out to eat because you weren't allowed to go out to eat. You couldn't, you had to be in your bubble or in your house. There was no work, there was nothing. And all of a sudden we had to learn to be with who?
Mhm.
Ourselves.
It was great actually, in a
Mm,
lot of ways. I know that it was tragic in a lot of ways, but a
absolutely.
lot of people I speak to, they said that they started to understand themselves in that
Mhm.
in that time. So I'm thinking, Kayla, I've got this goal to come to Mexico at the end of the year. So I don't know, things shift and change, but I'm thinking, gosh, I'm gonna have to come in one of these retreats now.
Yeah,
Can't
please.
spend the time.
I've got a few retreats planned this year. Nothing planned for November or December as of today, but it changes pretty quick.
And
I've got a couple of retreats. Yeah.
do you have the same link? So if I in this podcast, if I put a link,
Hmm.
do you have something that anybody listening they can start to follow you, learn out where your things are? We can put a link in there. So if people are in,
Yeah. So right now I'm just in the midst of building my website because I'm rebranding. I just rebranded my business. It's called Sanctuary of Self.
Oh, wow, I love that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can follow, I'll send you my Instagram, and if anybody wants to follow me or contact me, they can follow me there. And hopefully if all things go well, in 3 weeks, I'll have a working, functioning website.
And also,
Um,
people like to see a little bit of social media and
mhm.
understand a little bit. Do you pop things on social media as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on social media. As much as like sometimes I'm like, ah, but I also like, I know it's really important to like share the things that I'm doing. And I really love what I'm doing. So before I used to be really resistant with social media. Now I have I enjoy it because I'm really loving what is happening in my life right now. Um, and I love sharing it because I know not everybody can afford to come to Mexico. And I get that 100%. So, but it's so beautiful. Like, like when someone writes me and they're like, wow, like that just put me in a trance, or that just made me feel so good,
Well,
um, yeah,
we've got a mutual friend, Janine, who's also been on this podcast.
she's beautiful.
I don't go on social media very often. I tend to create on there myself, but I don't tend to watch a lot.
Hmm.
Get a little bit disciplined that way for myself. But I came across one of her sound root activation this morning. I was sat by a tree in a Buddha. Oh my gosh, it was
They're
mad.
amazing. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So I know.
Janine has such a beautiful gift. Like, it's so, I'm so happy that she's back into that space and like learning and growing and sharing her gifts, because she really does have such a beautiful gift. It's a
It's
privilege to have her as a friend.
So being over here in the UK and away from that environment, right? It's really beautiful for people to be able to see that. What you're
Hmm.
doing, what Janine's doing. I have people comment on what I'm doing. And for me personally, I take it for granted because I'm doing it.
Hmm.
Not until somebody else comments that you realize, oh, wait, there was a time when I would have loved to have seen.
Hmm.
I would have loved to have seen that stuff. So we'll share
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
that. I'd love to see you and give you an actual physical hug and say,
Yeah. Well, now you're manifesting it.
so
I'll be checking flights now after this podcast. I'm messaging you and being like, well,
it's actually on my manifestation list. So
Yeah,
obviously,
I've got a little bit of a busy summer. I'm actually headed to Peru for a month. I'm going to go down and do some training. I'm going to be a Kambo practitioner. Yeah.
I'm not jealous at all. I've only wanted to go to Peru for 4 years.
Well, the woman that I work with her house, like the woman that is here in Mexico, she's actually lives in Peru. So I,
So
I I'm like I can't not go
not
now,
go.
Yeah.
I've
But yeah.
no doubt we're going to see each other again and
Oh,
perhaps
absolutely.
together.
Yeah.
So I have two questions that I ask at the end of my podcast.
Okay.
And the first one is, looking back on your life so far, if you
Mhm.
could go back to any version of yourself at any time and just give her a little message, where would you go and what would you say?
I definitely go back to 11-year-old Kayla and give her a really big hug and tell her that everything will be okay. I know it's hard right now, but everything will be okay. And
Mm.
it's not your fault.
Oh, so beautiful.
Mm,
So she thought it
mm-hmm,
was fault.
mm,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
mm,
And if you had, we didn't do this podcast and we didn't already say everything that we've said, and you could just give one message to viewers. Bear in mind, I told you who I'm aiming at for the viewer before we started. If you just give
mhm.
one message to viewers, what would you actually say to them?
Don't be afraid of
Mhm.
loving yourself
Mm.
first.
Oh gosh, yeah. Because we are so taught not to.
Mm,
That's beautiful as well.
mm.
I love your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. What a blessing to be here with you. And I remember the last time I seen you. It was at a women's circle you hosted, and you showed me how to make cacao.
There you go. I'm the cow lady. I now have
Mm.
Now I now serve cacao in Glastonbury, and I do cacao shots for people and hold
Wow.
of cacao. So
Mm, mm,
just shows you where we go, doesn't it?
yeah. So
Beautiful.
yeah, I remember that. It was really special to me. Yeah. So still to this day when I prepare my cacao, I remember you. And you cut it up really fine and you pour your love in it.
Yeah, the theobromine.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Kayla.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you. Oh,
It was really, really lovely.
it's so amazing. Now I want to come see you. I actually have a lot of people over in the UK, so yeah, I need to get back there for sure.
Let's manifest it.
Yeah, I am right now. Teleporting.